Good morning, everyone. I welcome you all for the free OpManager training series. Hope you have no hassles in hearing and viewing this presentation. If any, please do let us know through the chat panel. Once we receive few confirmations, we will proceed with this webinar. Okay, we have received few confirmations. Let us proceed. Please introduce myself as Ranga from the OpManager team. I'm with OpManager for the past couple of years and I will be the trainer for today's webinar. Hope you all know that this is a 4-part training series. On last week, we discussed on how the discovery and classification works on OpManager, wherein we saw in depth on how to add devices on OpManager, what are the basic system requirements to install OpManager, and other details. So today we will be completely focusing on how to monitor the server performance, followed by we will be having a session on April 21, where we will be discussing in depth on monitoring the network performance and maps. Finally, we will be discussing on fault management and IT automation, which will be on April 28th. And this would happen in 2 different time zones. One would be at 6 a.m. GMT and the other one would be at 11 a.m. EDT, which is now. For the benefit of larger audience, in case if you have missed to join the last season, or in case if you have missed to join the current season and as well as the future seasons, then yes, we have recorded the complete webinar, which will be available on the link which you see on the screen. Also, you can see the videos in our YouTube channel, which would be OpManager Tech videos. We also have a team of panelists to answer all your questions. So in case if you have any questions, please feel free to post your questions in the chat panel and our panelists would get back to you with the answers. So let us start today's session of monitoring server performance. Let me quickly brief you on the agenda of what are all the key parameters which we'll be seeing today. So first one being the availability monitoring. It is important that we must monitor the availability of the devices, which is very critical component when it comes to monitoring a network infrastructure. So we'll be seeing in depth on availability monitoring. Followed by, we will be also be seeing server performance monitoring, what all the key parameters and metrics to be monitored whenever a server is running very slow. Followed by virtual and Nutanix server performance, what all the various performance metrics which OpManager offers for virtual devices as well as Nutanix. We will also be seeing on URL and event log monitoring, wherein in case if you have a critical URL to be monitored, yes, you can monitor it from OpManager. We will also be seeing on script monitoring. And finally, we would be seeing on the storage performance monitoring in case if you have a storage device which needs to be monitored. Yes, we would let you know on how to monitor the storage devices in depth. So first, as I said earlier, availability is the most important parameter whenever it comes to monitoring an infrastructure. It is critical that the critical servers must be available 100%, and in case if the appropriate service goes down, the network admin or the network architect must need to know that this critical server is down so that we can avoid the business impact. OpManager monitors the health status of the device using 3 different ways. One is ICMP, which is just a basic thing. In case if you are on a ICMP is blocked in your network, or in case if the devices are in a DMZ zone, then you can monitor the availability using TCP or SNMP. We have 2 to 3 different options where we can monitor the health status. Also, you can configure the monitoring at a regular intervals. So say if you wanted to keep monitoring this device each and every 5 minutes, yes, you can very well do that. You can also set threshold for packet loss and response time so that in case if the threshold is breached, then OpManager would trigger an alarm. And also you can set uplink dependency. So this case, it would come whenever multiple devices goes down. So say you have a 36 port switch, which is in turn connected to 36 critical servers. So in case if the switch goes down, then all the devices, all the 36 critical servers is obviously down. So which would trigger a lot of alarms. So in order to avoid this, we have a feature called uplink dependency, where it will just pack all the dependency related alarms and it would just trigger only one alarm. So let me explain this complete availability monitoring by navigating to the UI. So I have one of my endpoint which is in Chicago, where I need to monitor the availability. So as you see here, once the device is added, this is the summary page of a device where you can see the availability timeline, what is the availability percentage for this particular device in the form of a dial. You can also see the packet loss and the response time. So in case if you wanted to configure the threshold, then yes, you can go ahead, you can just click this option here in the dial, which will allow you to configure the threshold. So in case if you wanted to have the appropriate threshold values for various alarms levels, then you may go ahead and do. And also in case if you wanted to have the monitoring configured, yes, as you see here that this monitoring is configured for 5 minutes. So each and every 5 minutes, OpManager would poll the device and the monitoring would be, availability would be monitored. And when it comes to uplink dependency, yes, we have an option. Like I said earlier, the easiest way to have this uplink dependency configured is via the quick configuration wizard. Let me show you that. So you can choose quick configuration wizard from settings configuration, where you can click on device dependencies. So you can just select the parent device, which is the most critical device. In this case, it would be a 36 port switch. So once I have selected the appropriate switch, I just choose next and I just manually choose the devices which are all connected to this particular switch. Or in case if you have a group, yes, you can assign it to a group as well, and you can just choose associate, which will configure the uplink dependency. And again, if you wanted to have threshold settings, the availability monitors, yes, you can also do it via the quick configuration wizard, where you can just choose the availability monitors, choose the response time or packet loss, enter the appropriate threshold details, and this would be applied to all the devices. So the next one would be availability representations. You might have seen that there are very large number of colors in OpManager, and you'll be wondering what are the various colors and what does the colors represents. So these are all the colors which are available on OpManager, wherein green represents that the device is up, red obviously the device is down, gray in case if you have configured a device on maintenance, in case if the device is down for a particular reason, such as iOS firmware being updated, then yes, you can put it on maintenance mode. In case if for some reason the device is unmanaged by a particular network admin, then yes, it will be available in pink as on hold. And in case if the uplink dependency is configured and if the parent device is unavailable, then the child devices would be tagged in yellow color. And in case if the device itself is not monitored on OpManager, then you can see the representation in blue. So let me take you to the device and let me show you the different colors. So as you see, this is one of my critical switch in Texas. So you can see various colors here: green, yellow, which represents dependent unavailable, on hold, which is in pink, blue not monitored, and a few gray, which says that the device is in maintenance mode. So this is how you can get to know the various color codes on OpManager, and you can understand the current status of the device just with the colors. So now that we have seen the availability monitoring, it is also important to know the performance metrics of the server. So you might have deployed a few high-end configuration servers on your organization, and over the years pass by, or after 2 years, the load on the server obviously becomes high, and the server might starts to slow down. So in this case, what are all the metrics which you need to watch out for so that you can avoid the slowness issue? So few metrics which we would recommend are to check or to monitor the CPU, RAM, as well as the disk usage of the device. So in case if the CPU is 100%, or the memory is 100%, obviously the device or the server would respond slowly. So it's essential that you need to monitor the CPU and RAM. You can understand what are the top process contributing to the high utilization of CPU or the RAM. You can work with the trend analysis report, which is available on OpManager, which would show you the trend after quite a period of months, so that after 180 days, what would be the capacity of this particular monitor, say CPU or say RAM. So in case if you wanted to add additional metrics or add additional resources, yes, you can go ahead and decide on this after seeing the trend analysis report. We also have health reports on OpManager. So let me show you everything in depth. So as you see here, I have the monitors configured for one of my endpoint, which is available in Chicago, a critical endpoint, where we have different monitors for CPU, disk, as well as the free space. So as you see here, these are all the values which are obtained. So as and when these values are higher than the threshold which is configured by you, yes, OpManager would automatically alert you. But it is also good for you to see this and to know what is the present status of the CPU utilized, or what is the present status of the disk being utilized. And as I said earlier, processes is another one thing which consumes a lot of things. So you can also see what are the process which is occupying a large memory here. And you can also work with trend analysis reports. So as I said, we have reports called trend analysis, which would be available in forecast reports, where it would give you the complete forecast of what is the current level which is being utilized and what is the prediction which OpManager says as well. So you can also check the forecast report. And we also have few health-based reports on OpManager, which you can access by going to reports, OpManager, health and performance. We have various health-based reports. So one thing is which I would like to show is the complete health report of all the devices which are under monitored by OpManager. So if you see this here, it will show the availability, the packet loss, various metrics which you have enabled for a particular device, which would give you an overview of how the servers are performing and what is the health of each and every devices which are monitored. So the next one which we can see is the Windows services as well as service monitoring. So Windows services, so as everyone be aware that there are some critical Windows services which are to be monitored when it comes to a server or when it comes to a critical endpoint. So you can monitor the availability of these Windows services from OpManager using the WMI protocol. And in case if you suspect that this appropriate service is down, then yes, you also have an option to restart the appropriate service or restart the full server itself. In case if you get a device, in case if you get a Windows services down alarm from OpManager. So configuring a Windows service monitoring is very simple. Let me take you to the UI and let me show you. So you can navigate to the appropriate device, choose monitors, and you have a tab called Windows Service Monitors, where already I've added few Windows Service Monitors which are critical. Say SNMP service, the Kaspersky antivirus which is running, Windows events logs as well. So you can just choose actions and choose add monitor, which would fetch all the Windows services which is currently running on this machine with the help of WMA protocol. So you can just choose whatever Windows service which you wanted to monitor, and you can just choose add. That would obviously add it. And in case if the appropriate service goes down, then yes, you can edit the appropriate Windows Service Monitor and configure what you need to do. So in case if you wanted to restart the service or restart the server, so this you can configure it, and once the appropriate service goes down, then obviously this action would be triggered from OpManager. So the next one is the service monitoring, which is nothing but a TCP port check. So in case if you wanted to check whether the port for any service is down or up, then yes, you can avail the service monitoring in OpManager, which is very well similar to Windows Service Monitoring. You can navigate to the monitors page, choose the service monitoring option, where I have already added one of the port which I have to be monitored in the server. So you can just choose add monitor, enter the service name, the port number on which this service is functioning, and you can just choose save, which would automatically add it, and it would start monitoring the appropriate service. So now that we have seen how Windows services and service monitoring works on OpManager, it is also important that you need to monitor various processes which is running on OpManager. So when it comes to the OpManager server, it is important that you need to ensure the Postgres SQL, which is the Postgres SQL database service, is running. And also, if you have any other critical process which is running on the appropriate server, yes, it can be very well monitored using the WMA protocol again. So you can check what all the active processes which is running on the appropriate machine. You can check the process status. What is the CPU and memory usage being consumed by the appropriate process? You can configure thresholds for the critical process, and you can have OpManager to be alerted them in case if the threshold is violated. And you can also kill the appropriate process from OpManager in case if you see that the appropriate process is consuming a very large CPU and memory. So let me take you and let me show you on how to configure the process monitors. So under monitors, you will be having a process monitors, wherein I have already configured few process monitors which is related to my antivirus as well as the Postgres and Java process. So as you see here, what is the CPU, memory, and which is being utilized by this particular process monitor is obviously captured on OpManager. And in case if you suspect that this is high, which is causing the server to be slow, then yes, you can also kill it. So killing is easy. You can navigate to the summary page. You have an option called process diagnostics in the CPU utilization dial. And when it comes to memory, you have the same in the memory utilization dial as well. Once you click on it, it would communicate, it would use the WMA protocol to fetch the current processes which is being used on this appropriate server, and it will list the complete process along with the level of CPU or the memory which is being utilized. So once the appropriate page comes up, you can see that, I'm sorry, looks like there's some fault. So once the appropriate page comes up, you can see what is the top process which is being utilized, and you can just select the appropriate process and kill it from there itself. So next comes the file and folder monitoring. So in case if you have critical files and folders which are to be monitored from OpManager, yes, you can monitor whether the appropriate file or folder exists on the appropriate machine or not. You can monitor the file size, count, as well as the age of the file. Also, you can configure the threshold for file or folder size. So in case if you suspect that this particular file, the size of this particular file has grown to a larger extent, then yes, you can configure a threshold, and you can set up an alert automatically, which OpManager would alert you in case if the size of this particular file has grown. And also, we also have an option to search for a particular string in the entire file, and if it is missing, or if in case if it is there, then you can get notified. So this classic scenario would be a wrapper file when it comes to OpManager logs. So it is important that the wrapper log and stdr logs should be monitored, where in case if you find any words stating critical or exception or down, if these three words are there on this particular notepad file, then yes, you can monitor it with the help of an agent. You can install the agent, wherein this agent would constantly monitor the appropriate file. It would start reading the file from the appended text, and if the match string is found, then yes, an alert would be raised from OpManager. Let me show you on how this works in the UI. Under the monitors tab, you have an option called file monitors as well as folder monitors. As you see here, I've already started monitoring the OpManager log files, where it shows the file size, what is the file age, if the file is there or not, and everything is already seen here. The same goes for folder monitors as well. So if you wanted to monitor a folder, and if you wanted to know how much files does this folder contains or what is the size of the entire folder, yes, you can monitor it from here. So adding a new file or folder monitoring is easy. You can just pick add monitor from the actions. You can type the appropriate folder path, or in case if you want to monitor the subfolders as well, then yes, configure the polling interval. If you wanted to monitor the folder existence, then yes, folder same applies for folder size as well as folder modification. So everything can be configured from here itself, and the same applies for file monitors as well. So actions, add monitor, and the same options would be there for file. So next one is the URL monitoring. So when it comes to an infrastructure like banking infrastructure, it is critical that the online banking website has to be available, up and running, and it should not go down. So critical URLs like that has to be monitored, and this URL monitoring can be done from OpManagers. And in case if you're working in an organization where people have to record their attendance on a daily basis, then you can also monitor the attendance website from OpManager and ensure that the appropriate critical websites doesn't goes down. OpManager gives you an option to monitor the availability as well as the response time of critical URLs. You can also match the content from the URL in case if there is a string stating error or unable to reach or cannot be reachable. Some strings like that, if it is there on the URL, and in case if you wanted to match it and alert and get alerted in case if the string is not available, then yes, you also have this option of match criteria. And if the URLs are hosted behind a proxy, then yes, you can also monitor that. You can configure the proxy server details first on OpManager, and then you can go ahead and monitor the URLs which is behind the proxy. So let me take you to the UI and let me show you on how URL monitoring functions. So it's the same. You can go to the appropriate device, choose the URL monitors tab under the monitors, wherein I've already added two of our critical URLs which has to be monitored. So as you see here, once the URL is added here, it would show you the response time of this URL as well as the availability. So if you suspect that the response time is higher than the normal response time, then in case you can have a check with the appropriate application team to go ahead and further check on why the response time is higher. So adding is easier. You can go to actions, add monitor, enter the appropriate URL address which you need to monitor, configure the monitoring interval time. And as I said earlier, if you wanted to match any string and get alerted in case if it is not there, yes, you can do that. And in case if the URL requires some kind of authentication, yes, you can also enter the authorization details here. And when it comes to proxy, the URLs which are hosted behind the proxy server, then yes, you can navigate to settings, general settings, proxy server settings, wherein you can first enable the proxy server settings and configure the proxy server details, and then you can go ahead and add the appropriate URL monitor. So now that we have seen the URL monitors, Windows service monitors, as well as process monitors, it is also important that you need to monitor the event logs, which is being captured by the event viewer on the appropriate end machine. So in case if you wanted to get alerted whenever a particular event log is raised for a particular condition or for a particular scenario, then yes, you can configure event log rules on OpManager. You can specify the priority, you can specify the severity, you can specify the rules according to your requirement. And in case if the appropriate event log is registered, then yes, obviously OpManager would trigger an alert. So you can monitor the events about the program, security, and system events occurring on Windows-based devices. You can gather the event ID, category, as well as other details such as the severity from the event viewer, and you can then create a rule on OpManager. So let me show you on the UI and how this event log rules works. So you can monitor, you can go to settings, monitoring event logs, where we already have various rules which is configured here. In case if you wanted to create a custom event log rule, then yes, you can go ahead and just choose this add custom event log rule, where you can just select the appropriate device, click on the authentication, provide the input, and then you can just start save. Or you can also add a new rule by here by going to add new rule, select the appropriate log. So say I wanted to monitor a log from the security. So since we are all are working from home, it is important to maintain the security, and it is also critical to know that in case if there is any security breach, we have to get alerted so that we can act accordingly. So you can open the Windows event logs, the event viewer, choose the security, and once the security based event logs are populated here, you can select the event ID. So you can have this event ID captured on the new rule which you are going to create on OpManager. You can select the rule name, select the user, which should obviously be here. Everything you can find it in the event log itself. And in case if you wanted to match the severity, then yes, you can select the critical or trouble or attention based on your requirement, and you can just save this event log rule and then associate this event log rule to the appropriate device, so that in case if this event log is raised on the end Windows machine, then obviously OpManager would be alerting you. So the next one would be the script templates. So we have seen various monitors on OpManager, which monitors the various metrics when it comes to a server. Apart from all these, if you wanted to monitor few things which is not available in OpManager as of now, a classic example would be monitoring the expiration of an SSL certificate. So if you wanted to know when this SSL certificate which you're using is getting expired, and in case if you have a script written for it, yes, OpManager offers script monitoring as well. So if you don't find a standard SNMP or WMA monitor, you can use this script monitor, where you can have the script in any programming language such as Python or Perl. You can execute the scripts in both local machine as well as the remote machines, as well as the format which you need to follow is the instance followed by the value. So this is the only criteria which we from OpManager we suggest, so that this script monitoring works. So whenever you use a script monitor, make sure that the format of the script is the instance followed by the value. So let me take you to the UI and let me show you on how to add a script monitor. So you can navigate to settings, monitors, and choose script templates where you can choose add. You can give the name. You can configure the monitoring interval. You can have the script pasted here in the command line as well as in the script body. And you can choose if you wanted to execute from the local server or the monitor machine, as well as you can choose a directory where the appropriate script file is there. And in case if it is, if you wanted to have some thresholds configured for this script based on the output, yes, you can go ahead and configure the threshold details as well from here. So next one is the virtual and Nutanix server performance. So when it comes to virtual devices, we have various performance metrics which OpManager offers. When it comes to especially virtual based devices such as VMware or Hyper-V or Zen or even Nutanix. So you can get access to these performance metrics for VMware based devices. So let me show you on the UI where we have all these performance metrics. You can navigate to settings, monitoring, performance monitors, where n number of monitors are listed. So based upon your requirement and based on the appropriate metric which you need to be monitored on OpManager for the appropriate VM, you can just associate the appropriate monitors to the VMware device, which would help you to monitor it. As well as when it comes to hardware, we also monitor the hardware metrics of a device. So we monitor various hardware metrics such as sensor, power, temperature, as well as voltage. And we use the VMware API protocol to monitor the hardware metrics. So whatever the API gives us, that is captured and that is being listed in the OpManager. But as of now, the hardware metrics is supported only for Dell and HP vendors. So I have one of my VMware where I am monitoring the hardware metrics. Let me show you. So this is one of the Dell hosts where I have configured the hardware monitoring. As you see here, I'm monitoring the battery, the fan, the power status, the storage, the temperature. So everything is being monitored here, and it would give you the information as and when the appropriate polling has been enabled. OpManager captures everything, and in case if it suspects that something is above than the normal, then yes, you can receive an alert from OpManager as well. So after the hardware metrics is where it comes the VMware event. So in case if you wanted to get alert whenever a host goes down, or whenever a VM is orphaned, or whenever a VM is powered on or off, yes, we have various VMware events which you can associate and add it into the monitoring. So you can navigate to settings, monitoring, VMware events, where we already have various events. So depending upon your requirement, you can just add the appropriate event and associate it to the appropriate VMware device, and you can get notified as and when an VMware event is matched or as and when a VMware event is raised. And finally, we also have a dedicated reports for VMware device where we show you what are all the underutilized, what are the over-provisioned resources. We have VM sprawl dashboard when it comes to VMware devices. So let me show you that as well. So as you see here, if you navigate to reports, OpManager, we have complete reports just for virtual devices alone, which would show you everything. So what are the top VMS monitored by, where the memory are over allocated. So as and when you start monitoring the device, OpManager monitors all this, and it would automatically start giving you the recommendation so that you can view these reports. And in case if you wanted to reduce the RAM or any other resources such as hard disk or RAM or CPU, then yes, you can very well reduce it depending upon the recommendations which OpManager offers. And when it comes to VMS sprawl dashboard, yes, let me show you that as well. So under the dashboard, under virtualization, we have VMS sprawl, where it would be giving you the complete details of the recommendations which OpManager offers based upon the prior monitoring. So you might have added this VMware devices 2 years back, and OpManager would have continuously monitored this over a period of time. So based on those monitoring results, we give you this recommendation so that you can act accordingly. And when it comes to Nutanix, let me show you a device, a Nutanix device. So once a Nutanix is added, you can see all the details pertaining to the Nutanix device, such as what are the containers, what are the storage components which is associated. Everything you can see here. So this is one example of a Nutanix device which I have added. So you can see what all the hosts this Nutanix cluster has, what are the virtual machines which it is associated with, various storage disks, as well as various storage containers. And when it comes to Nutanix, yes, for the reports, we have a dedicated reports just for Nutanix alone. So as you see, reports, OpManager Nutanix reports is where we give the reports for Nutanix devices alone. So if you wanted to have a report for the complete host summary, yes, you can just choose the appropriate report, which would give you the overview of all the Nutanix devices which is currently being monitored by OpManager. So now that we have seen how the virtual and Nutanix server performance works on OpManager, next is what we see is the storage server performance. So OpManager gives you an additional metric or additional feature called storage performance, where in case if you have any storage devices on your infrastructure, yes, you can monitor it. So the various features are RAID management, tape library management, storage capacity forecasting. Yes, we give this forecast report. And in case if you have an FC switch, then yes, you can also manage your FC switch. So we support various vendors when it comes to storage devices. Most common storage devices such as EMC Echelon, EMC Unity, or EMC Clarion, we support those devices. So in case if you find that some of your storage devices is not being supported till now, yes, please do let us know. We'll be happy to support the appropriate storage device on OpManager. And we also have a dedicated reports for storage, where it gives you the complete storage summary, the RAID reads per second, etc. So let me show you on the UI. So in the past seminar, you might have seen on how to add storage device on OpManager. Now let me show you on what are the various metrics which OpManager monitors when it comes to a storage device. So this is an EMC Linux file which we have in our network. So as you see here, the complete disk which is being associated to this storage device is monitored. You can see what is the total capacity, what is the use capacity, as well as what is the free capacity which is available. The same goes for LUN. Or all the LUN which is associated with this storage, you can monitor everything. And we also have a couple of storage based monitors where you can also monitor a critical metrics such as what is the total volume used, or what is the volume reads, volume writes, and you can also configure the threshold accordingly. And when it comes to reports, yes, we have exclusive reports for storage alone. So you can navigate to reports, OpManager storage reports, where you can get access to complete storage reports. So in case if you wanted to have a forecast report, yes, you can also choose the RAID forecast by utilization, where the appropriate data would be available. So let me show you an example of a report which contains the complete storage summary. So as you see here, I just monitor the disk and the RAID alone. So what is the complete RAID which is available? What is the configured capacity? What is the use and free space? Everything is available from the reports itself. Or you can also use you can use these reports and you can present it to your client or the customer whenever they require access based on storage devices alone. So you can also view what are all the devices which we support as of now in OpManager by clicking on the link which you are seeing on the page, where we have listed almost all the devices which OpManager supports so far. So with this, we come to the end of this webinar. The next training will be on 21st of April, where we will be discussing in depth on monitoring the network performance, such as what is the interface template, how to create groups, and how to create a custom SNMP monitor, IPSLA as well as maps. It's time for a few questions. We have received few questions from the audiences who have joined today. Let us see those questions. Does OpManager supports Nutanix? Yes, Nutanix is being supported in OpManager. This is available from the latest version. So in case if any of you are using an older version of OpManager, then this Nutanix feature is available from OpManager version 12.4098. So you can contact our support team to upgrade OpManager to version 12.4098 and above, where you can have this Nutanix performance criteria or Nutanix performance feature. Second one is, does OpManager have dynamic thresholds? Currently, OpManager does not have dynamic thresholds. It is only customized based on your requirement. However, we are working to have a dynamic threshold by using artificial intelligence. So in case if you have any idea on how to implement this using artificial intelligence on OpManager, yes, feel free to share your ideas. It is already in the development stage, and it would be great if you could share your ideas as well, which we can, which would be very helpful for us. So you can just navigate to the monitors page of any device. Let me take you to one of the device. So you can go to the monitors page, where we have an option called Want AI-based adaptive thresholds. So you can click it, where it will redirect you to a page where you can pour in your ideas, and we would definitely use that and get this option available on OpManager. So the third question is, can OpManager monitor mounted partitions in the device? Yes, we have monitors for mounted partitions. You can navigate to the appropriate monitors page of the device, choose add performance monitor, where the list of performance monitors which OpManager offers would be automatically listed. So once the monitors are listed, you can just search for mounted partition, and as you see here, we have a monitor for free mounted partition space, which represents in GB using the WMA protocol, as well as we have mounted partitions of the device using the same WMA protocol as well. So you can use these two monitors, which would be helpful for you, and also which matches your requirement. So the next question is, will OpManager notify me if the CPU utilization of OpManager server is above 90%? A classic question. Yes, we have an option called self-monitoring in OpManager. Let me show you on the UI. So you can navigate to settings, general settings, self-monitoring, where you have an option to monitor the CPU, the disk, free space, as well as other CPU such as PostgreSQL, system CPU, etc. So you can just select the appropriate parameter, configure the threshold, and in case if this threshold is breached, yes, OpManager would automatically alert you. By this, you can monitor the metrics of the OpManager installed server CPU itself or the free disk space. The next one would be how to apply a threshold for a monitor to multiple devices on bulk. Again, a classic question. So applying a threshold for multiple devices is very easy. We have an option where you can navigate to settings, configuration, device template. So as you may see in our previous webinar, we have templates for each and every devices. So you can just navigate to the appropriate device template where the appropriate monitors are there. Just choose the option edit threshold, where it will be giving you an option to configure the thresholds for all the monitors. So once you have configured the thresholds here, just choose OK and then choose save and associate, and that would automatically associate to all the devices which you would be choosing in the next screen. Next one is, does OpManager supports TLS 1.3 for URL monitoring? OpManager so far supports TLS 1.1 and 1.2. We do not support TLS 1.3 when it comes to URL monitoring. So with this, we come to the end of the question and answer session. I would also invite everyone for the next free webinar, which will be held on 16th April at 11 a.m. EDT, where we will be discussing on the need for monitoring every component in your infrastructure. We will also be discussing on how to identify and resolve common performance issues and other few interesting topics. And on May 6th, we have another free webinar, which will happen in 2 different time zones. One would be at 11 a.m. EDT and 6 a.m. GMT, where we will be discussing on how to monitor the VPN capacity, how to monitor the overall security of your VPN network, and how to secure your network from external attacks. So since during this pandemic, we are all working from home, it is important that you have to secure your VPN network as well. So we will be discussing in depth on that. So in case if you wanted to join, please feel free to use the link which you are seeing on the screen, and please register yourself, which would be really helpful. So in case if you wanted to have few YouTube videos on OpManager, yes, you can visit our YouTube channel, which would be youtube.com/OpManagerTechVideos, where we have various videos on OpManager. Or in case if you wanted to have some help, then yes, we have our help website, which is help.opmanager.com, where each and every module or each and every performance which OpManager offers is there in detail. You can visit this, which would be really helpful for you. Or if you wanted to check out our forums, yes, you can navigate to forums.manageengine.com/opmanager. Or in case if you wanted to contact support, then you can feel free to contact the support by mailing to opmanager-support@manageengine.com, or you can reach us through the toll-free numbers which is displayed on the screen, and our support team would be happy to help you out. We also have certifications for OpManager. In case if you wanted to learn in depth on OpManager and want to master the product, yes, you can get yourself registered, take up the examination and get certified as the OpManager professional. If you are interested on this, you can visit the link which is displayed on the screen, and then you can fill out the page or the form over there, and our team member will be contacting you. So with this, thanks a lot for joining the today's seminar. I hope it would be useful for you. We will be again meet on next week, where we will be discussing in depth on monitoring the network performance. Until then, stay safe and wishing you a lovely week. Bye-bye.